Does the felon have something called amyloidosis? Let's look into it. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos. It helps the algorithm put the videos out to more people and makes the channel grow. So for that, thank you, thank you, thank you. December 3rd is when I'm recording this, and I'll be releasing it later today. This is the 1-year anniversary of Scrying Out Loud. So I'm trying a new camera with a new laptop, with a new microphone. We shall see how this works. It should be in high definition. I don't think my internet's fast enough for it to be in 4K, but maybe. We'll see how it uploads. So a couple of you emailed after the video yesterday stating that this protein buildup actually has a name called amyloidosis. Probably not saying that right. The protein is called amyloid, and it can build up in your heart. That's the most serious. It can also build up in your kidneys and your liver, your spleen, other organs as well. It can increase your risk of having a stroke. I'm sorry, it does increase your risk of having a stroke. How much? It depends upon which organs the protein's building up in. So we'll look at this question. Does he have this? Is that what I was describing? And what's going to happen? I also want to take this chance to look at King Charles's health. I just don't have a very good feeling about it. We shall see. The election in Tennessee yesterday, the Republican won by 8 points, but this is a huge victory for Democrats. Republicans had won this district previously by 22 points. For them to only win it by 8 means that there's, a 14-point shift towards Democrats, which really questions into what they're doing with this redistricting ideas. They might actually just end up giving Democrats a lot more seats. So, are Republicans scared of these election results? We'll look at that as well. And then several Congress people have come out and said that, the second bombing of the ship, after the people on the ship had surrendered, that bombing, the second one, would be like a war crime, right? So let's look to see if they're actually going to investigate it. I think this is kind of just lip service, but, Republicans are saying it too. I think this is partly because they're scared, and I think they realize that the felon is most likely going away sometime soon. Stephen Miller, I have a feeling that when the felon goes, he just kind of disappears from the planet. Not like literally, I don't think he dies or anything. I just think he becomes a pariah. And I don't think things are going to play out the way people think. So I want to look at that as well. So let's first start with King Charles. He's been on my radar for a while, and this feels like he's getting weaker and weaker. I'm just kind of curious. Let's just do a health check-in. I know he's a controversial figure because of what he did to Diana, and I'm not justifying anything whatsoever. He's also, a figure that's considered pretty good on the environment, and his environmental work's kind of respected, so, kind of love him, hate him. Energies there, I think, from the general populace. So, what can you show us about King Charles's health? Can you show us about King Charles's health? I don't think it's good. He's been diagnosed with cancer. He didn't look the best a couple months ago. Wow. The first card off the deck is the death card. I think this is what's coming. I'm not saying it's tomorrow, and I'm not saying it's a month from now. I would just be really surprised if it goes, past spring. I think we'll start to get rumors here about what's going on in the tabloids. It'll probably start in the tabloids, but then it'll be confirmed by the palace. I think at some point there's probably going to be a decision that's going to be made to where he's not going to seek further treatment. So I do think this will be somewhat expected when it happens. I think it's just a question of how long that goes until they announce that he's no longer seeking treatments. I think this is keeping him and the Queen Consort up at night. I think he's probably consulted with Prince William and Princess Kate or Princess Catherine. I think he's worried about the monarchy as an institution. I think he's, especially with the Prince Andrew stuff going on and all of that. But I think his time is short. I just do. I think it's getting harder and harder for him to justify doing some of these medical treatments because I just think they make him feel bad. And then, you got to ask the question of why are we doing medical treatments if they're not really improving our quality of life? Like, what's better, longevity or quality of life? The Five of Pentacles, his health is pretty poor. I think things are going to happen quite fast. I think, I do think there was some realization. Like in the beginning, I think he was optimistic about his chances of doing well with treatment. And then now I think that that's not really the case anymore. And I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but it's a tough time, right? There's a lot of emotions for him to go through, and no, he's not lived the most perfect life, that's for sure. I think he does feel like he's betrayed some people along the ways. I think, but this is just kind of a heartbreaking situation for everybody. I don't think it'll be long. I think, the only thing that's really kind of holding him on is tying up some loose ends. So we'll see if he ties them up. Of course, some people don't. His health is quite poor. I think he's going to decide not to move forward with more treatments, the Six of Pentacles and the Chariot card. I do think this somehow gets leaked to the tabloids. I think they're working on this decision now. I don't think it's been made yet. I think there's a lot of anxiety. I think once the decision is made, he probably doesn't survive for very long because it's kind of that releasing of the burdens, right? A lot of people that go into hospice care just don't make it very long afterwards. In fact, some go the very next day, right? It's just kind of the way it works is when your body's saying, okay, it's okay to go. I do think this will be an emotional time for some. I think, again, I think we'll get information about his health and the choices he's deciding to make with the Page of Pentacles and then the Lovers card. So I don't think we'll be completely in the dark here. Could be wrong, but I don't think this is something that's happens out of the blue. I think it's something we can expect to happen. Okay. So the election in Tennessee, the Republican won by about 8 points last time I looked. And a Republican plus 22 district, that's a 14-point swing towards the Democrats. And particularly in Montgomery County, Clarksville, this is not a liberal bastion, even though there's a university, Austin Peay State University's there. Nashville's the only part of that district that is, and it is still, I mean, Nashville's not, San Francisco. It's not Boulder, Colorado. It's Nashville. Yes, it might lean towards the Democrats, but it's not a, 90-10 like Philadelphia. But it voted overwhelmingly for the Democrat as well. So are Republicans scared of these election results? So what can you tell us? Are Republicans scared of these election results? So I'm throwing cards all over the place. Republicans scared of these election results? I think so. It does feel that way. I think it really causes some concern. Of course, state legislatures are the ones that redraw congressional maps, not the congressmen and women that are elected. In Indiana, I think if they go with the map that's been proposed, and I don't think it's clear that map passes, by the way, they might be turning one Democratic district into two. It's not clear to me that it's going to accomplish what they think it is. Okay, what do we need to know? Are Republicans scared here? If the Democrats were to win the national popular vote by, say, 12 points, which would be the 14-point shift, I mean, there's things you can plug in to kind of see what happens. And, this is the Democrats winning 250 seats, right? I don't think that happens. All the Democrats really need to do is win by 4 or 5 to comfortably be in the 230s. So, Republicans are realizing families aren't buying what they're selling. It's like the no tax on tips. This hasn't happened yet, but people are going to go do their taxes, and they're going to realize that, oh, wait, I have to pay Social Security and Medicare on my tips. The only thing that I'm going to pay tax on, or the only tax savings I'm getting, is the federal tax, the state tax, and if you have some local taxes. And half the time local taxes are just a flat rate anyhow, so probably not exempt from that anyhow. But, chances are if, you're in, maybe a 10% tax bracket, 12% tax bracket, so you're $30,000 in tips after your standard deduction and all this other stuff, it probably is only going to turn out that you're maybe saving $100 when people were really thinking they were going to save like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It's not, their expectations aren't going to be met, is my point. Similar with the senior no tax on Social Security because of the income thresholds. Republicans do feel quite isolated and alone with the hermit card. They realize that their political futures were tied to the felon or are tied to the felon. And there's no going back. So it's really a matter of perception. His abuse of power, the Emperor card, really is going to seal their fate. And, people aren't buying it. The cult has realized that the cult leader is not immortal. He's ill. It changes people's perspective. It might seem strange to say that, but it's the way cults work, and I've been told it's not nice to call them a cult, but I don't know what else you would call them. You get a whole bunch of people voting against their economic interests, worshiping somebody with flags and contraband and propaganda and, paraphernalia, and I don't know what else you call it. So at the center, we get the Knight of Swords. It feels like a lot of them are going to choose to run away. A lot of not running for re-elections. The Four of Cups, the voters just don't want what they're being handed. It's inevitable that they're going to lose because of the felon, the King of Pentacles, in the reading. That's my card for the felon. And, they've sealed their fate, complete and utter downfall, the Ten of Swords. That's really kind of it. They've sealed their fate. So, tens are about ends of cycles. We've got 2 of them, or 3 of them with the Wheel of Fortune. So, families are going to realize that they didn't get what they thought they were going to get. People are going to realize they're not saving money on taxes when they thought they were. And some people are going to realize that they're saving a lot on taxes that didn't think they were going to, but didn't particularly want a tax break because they're watching rural hospitals close, this, that, and the other. So it kind of hits a whole bunch of different directions. It's already pretty much in progress. It's happening now. And that's kind of the end of them being in control, the Ten of Swords. It's inevitable that this information comes about and their fates turn against them, and the fates turns towards the Democrats. The Wheel of Fortune being a 10 as well for an end of a cycle. So, they're pretty isolated in support of the abuse of power of who? Of the felon. The rest of us don't support that. We just don't. We don't support, bombing boats after people have surrendered. We don't support just callously killing people. We don't support the way ICE is doing things. We don't support a bunch of things that they're doing. That's why his approval rating's so low, and that's why people don't what the Republicans are selling, the 4 of Cups. So, yes, Republicans are scared. Does this stop some of the redistricting? I'm not so sure. It should if they were smart, but, they're being controlled by the cult leader, and I just don't know that they're ready to cut that cord, but they might be. They realize that this election showed that Democrats are strong and people are moving on, the Chariot card. Not to mention the whole Epstein saga, which didn't play well with MAGA. So, they've lost votes from the middle and from the far right and from the sort of sane Republican voters. Okay. So are they actually going to investigate this bombing of this ship? Is there actually going to be a Republican's going to do it? I don't care whether Democrats want to do it because they don't have the power, but will Republicans actually do it? There seemed to be some interest here. Will there be an investigation into this? Getting the image of the, I guess it's kind of, I forget what it was called. It was a candy that's kind of in the shape of lips. It's like a gummy candy. I think they're just going to pay lip service is what my interpretation of that is. I do think the Pope speaks out again. I did read that he did say something this week about what was going on. I think the Pope stays on this. I do think that, the star card being here is protection for some of the institutions. I do think military leaders are going to be a little bit more cautious about following orders just to follow them. I do think this does move forward, the Chariot card. I think there's a lot of energy here, but I think logic and consistency prevails at the end of the day. Do they start an investigation? Probably, for lip service. Do they finish it? Probably not. I think we might be surprised by the fact that they even start it. They might hold a hearing. But people will be watching. I don't think the general public has a great deal of interest in this, but people like us on this channel, we do. So I think we'll be watching, and, we talk to other people, and that's how this thing sort of work. We get the 10 of Pentacles. This will be part of the felon's legacy. He will be seen as, and very similar to other despots and autocrats. History isn't going to save him. The United States is going to be just fine, and it's going to take some while to put it back together, but we're going to be just fine. Democracy's going to survive. I think there's a lot of talk behind the scenes about how to handle this and how to handle the felon in general. And we get the Six of Swords, people getting out of the boat, which is an interesting image here. Moving out of troubled water being the interpretation. So watch for the Pope to say something. I think we will be surprised that the Republicans do try to make it look like they're moving forward on this. I don't think they're really moving forward on this, though, so let's not make any huge assumptions that that's what's going to happen. I think this does further taint his legacy, along with Epstein. So, meanwhile, I think this is a step in even the small step of saying they're going to investigate is a step in the right direction to lead protection for people that are in the military to not follow illegal orders, in particular the higher ranks. But I think this is just kind of the thing the Republicans are going to do. They're going to say they're going to do this, and then they're really probably not. They've probably already talked about it with the felon on how they're handling it, and Hegseth as well. But I think people are kind of paying attention, at least to their inaction of standing up to him. I think that's the part that is most detrimental to them. So again, a spy in the camp, the Page of Swords. Somebody's going to speak eventually. The Eight of Swords, confinement. I think military is going to be a little bit more careful about what they do. And we're just going to have to wait and see. But people have a different perspective now of exactly what the felon's doing, the King of Pentacles being my card for the felon. So we'll have to see. I'm not super optimistic, but I'm also not pessimistic to think that even if they just announce it, that's not movement in the right direction for the military's sake. So, I think that's something. Okay, does Stephen Miller go when the felon goes? I've thought this for a long time. I know many of you will disagree with me, and that's fine. I just don't think once the Republicans lose really badly in 26 that, they're going to hang on to these people that are the reason why they're losing. I think they're going to move away from, the Project 2025 stuff. I don't think, it's scary, don't get me wrong, I understand, but I just don't think that they continue down that road after 2026. They might until 26, but until the election, that is. Does Stephen Miller go away after the felon? It does seem like Stephen Miller's been writing some of his tweets, but don't really know for sure. It does seem like the felon is getting, because of we'll talk about his medical condition here in a bit, but because of the neurological disorders and the dementia, he's getting more and more racist, right? He just is. In the things that he says, he's getting more sexist in the things that he says and does. So I think people are noticing that. So yeah, I think Stephen Miller will be out in the cold, the Five of Pentacles. I don't think he'll serve a purpose anymore. Does that mean that he's not at like the Heritage Foundation or some, crazy religious university? No, he might very well be at those places, but I don't think he'll have a role in the government. It's a crossroads moment after the felon goes. When the felon goes and people realize that it was a cult and that the people that were following him don't just translate to following a generic Republican, I think things really change. I think we get new leadership, the Ace of Wands. It's kind of my card for Vance. And no, I don't have much faith in Vance. But I just think Vance is smart enough to know that he won't win election in 28 if he sticks with these people. I don't think Vance is a complete idiot. So he's a horrible person, but a complete idiot, probably not. This isolationism has to go for the economy to work right. People just aren't going to respond to Stephen Miller the way that they used to. They're just not willing to take it in anymore, the Four of Cups. Like, they're not willing to deal with the NAZI wing of the Republican Party anymore. They're not willing to deal with it because in their minds, they're not getting anything out of it, and they're not. So it's kind of like that. He's toxic. He's, doing more harm than good at this point. And so we get this new beginning with the Ace of Pentacles, the Devil card over here. And I think we'll hear him say something on his way out, but I think it'll be a whimper. I don't think he goes out, super loud or anything. I think he just gets left out in the cold. I think it's just not where people's viewpoints lie, and that's the message that will be clearly sent in the next election. He's quite toxic. It's just not what people want. People want new leadership, new ideas, and they really just want Republicans to be out of power for a while. That's what's going to happen. The felon leaving is a big turning point, especially when it comes to foreign policy and the economy. And the elections of 26 will tell Republicans that the people do not want what they are selling with the Four of Cups. So that's the way I see it. I hope that's right. Obviously, I can be wrong. But the truth is the truth, right? The Ace of Swords. And the truth is he's just this, immature idiot who thinks he's intelligent that's really just spouting hate-filled tropes that have been around for centuries. He's not come up with anything new. People like him have been around forever. So, and there'll probably be somebody else that comes around later spilling the same sort of things. But, history's still improving things in society. Things are better today than they were 70 years ago, And 70 years from now, they'll be better than they are today. So that's the way I see it. Okay, what do we need to know about the felon in this possible diagnosis? Does he have this, I can't probably say it right, but the protein is amyloid, so amyloidosis. It's this buildup of this protein in the heart, kidney, liver, spleen, various organs. It can be fatal. Generally, it just leads to more complications, though, which is, I think, what we're seeing now. I think that's why they were doing the MRI. So we shall see if we ever get that public information. We'll know, but does the felon have this particular disease? It is somewhat treatable. In some cases, there are more serious, there's more than one type. One of them is very serious. The other two are a little bit more treatable. Again, I think he didn't get diagnosed quickly enough. And you might say, how did that happen? Because he doesn't answer questions honestly. So I think if he had started medicine earlier, this might have made a difference. But, his own arrogance, his own greed kept that from happening. And, the lies, the deceit, the deception, ironically, are probably the reasons why he's cut, 5-6 years off of his life expectancy. I don't suspect he'll be around much longer. No, we got death here coming out again. So I just think that this cycle ends with him. Like, this is how this dark cycle ends, right? Is he goes. Things don't get better until he goes. He doesn't step down. There's no 25th Amendment. I just don't see it. I think he goes. I think it's a surprise when he goes. I think, there's a lot of people that, can be sick and they go into like a hospice care and that they're about to go. Him, I think it's, he knows he's got a terminal diagnosis, but when he goes, I think that part surprises everybody. I think we might get more information about this, the Knight of Cups. The Queen of Pentacles, I don't think they can reverse this at this point. I think there's too much of these proteins built up, and I think the drugs that could help fix it are too taxing on one's heart. His doctors have thought about it, the Three of Cups. The country has protection with the Star card. I like that for us. And the World card, the end of his life cycle. So, yeah, I think this is what he has. This makes the most sense to me. When I read on it, it fits what I was seeing in the scrying, or in the quartz ball. It fits. So I think his own arrogance kept him from being diagnosed sooner. I think we'll hear about it probably after his life cycle has ended. The doctors are doing all they can, but the truth is that he delayed any sort of treatment because of his lies and his deceit. Because he couldn't just answer a basic question like, the questions that, older men get asked in doctor's offices. Some are embarrassing, but, you answer them for a reason. I do think it won't be long till death comes. I think this protects the country from his greed and returns us to a place of stability with the Queen of Pentacles. So I do think that's what's going on here. Underneath we have, the Tower card. This is the big shocking diagnosis. So again, I do think that's what happens. So, all right. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of the new camera. The new microphone's the one that I worry about the most because I have no luck with microphones whatsoever. So, thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.